video game music. That's right. It's a video about bad video game music. I'm bringing back top 10s. That's not true. It's not a top 10. It's not even a bottom 10. I'm not committing these songs to any particular place on the leaderboard or loser board. It's just 10. It's 10 bad video game songs. So when I find 10 more, I can do another video. And actually, I have hundreds of these, so I can do a lot of videos. You like video games, probably, right? I mean, you did click on this video. And extrapolating from that fact, you have probably heard some video game music. Where does that come from? Well, video game developers are typically not in the business of putting the top 40 songs in because licensing is expensive. And in general, game developers don't license a ton of songs, period. In fact, if you would believe it, the vast majority of all video game music ever was made specifically for that video game. And it's super cool because video games have brought us a wide variety of super memorable tracks, from Super Mario Bros. To the Dark Souls boss music you hear in memes. Why did the Dark Souls 3 music team go so hard on the first boss? But here's the bad news. Go ahead and sit down for me because, you know, they can't all be bangers. Okay, that's just reality, because sometimes the soundtrack is an afterthought. I myself am a gameplay first Chad. I understand that in a video game, the gameplay is the most important part. Sometimes graphics, music, story, these things are secondary, maybe even tertiary. But I'm also a music enjoyer. I know, crazy hobby. So I have compiled some of the most egregious examples of tunes to molest your ears with. But this isn't just a list because I'm extra. I wanted to provide some context. So I'm your host, Slumber, and let's look at some of the worst music in video games. Okay, we're starting with a super easy one. Crazybus. I gotta psych myself up for this one. All right, brace your ears, brace your ears. Here it comes. Oh. Okay, so why'd I pick this one? Well, the context of this one is super easy because this is the title screen of the game. Yes, you open it up and it assaults you with this. Wow. So this is basically not a game, so it's sort of disingenuous to include it here, but it's pretty well known for some reason. This is an unlicensed tech demo that coalesced from the ether in the year 2004 on the Sega Genesis of all platforms, despite it being years after the console's time in the sun. It randomly spawned in Venezuela with a box and art and everything, despite having basically zero gameplay. You move the bus left and right, and that's it. Also, the music is pseudo-randomly generated, so that's why it sounds like that. Alright, for the second entry, we're moving on to something deeply personal for me. A little game called Evergrace on the PS2. I bought this game at a Blockbuster liquidation sale. I know, Blockbuster, remember that? Tell us about it, Unc. What was it like? It was awesome. Now, this is a game from Software. You might know them better for other titles such as Cookies and Cream. So before From Software kind of came into their own and just made the same game like 9 times in a row, they were doing a whole bunch of stuff, like making another game like 7 times in a row. But there was also Evergrace. Now, including Evergrace in this is almost cheating because you can take almost any song from this soundtrack and show it to people and they will be shocked. But today, I don't want to spoil future videos, but today we're looking at a little song called Castle of Regression. Again, from Evergrace OST. Let's play it. Let's listen. Now, not actually bad to begin with. Yes, I love my atmospheric dungeon music punctuated by dying cats. That's my favorite thing. Evergrace is an odd game in pretty much every respect. It's like an action-adventure type game with some RPG stuff thrown in. You can play as 2 different characters, Charlene or Darius, and you explore a mysterious kingdom that supposedly vanished. I don't love this game, but one thing it does very well is commit to being weird. Everything in it feels surreal or dreamlike, from the locations and the environs to the monster design. But perhaps the most bizarre element is the music. This soundtrack is done by Kota Hoshino, who apparently has no formal music education, and it shows, as this OST is completely willing to experiment. He later will be in charge of the music for the Armored Core games, but here in this game he made what I think is genuinely one of the strangest OSTs in gaming. Now, I don't necessarily like it, but it perfectly wraps up the whole Evergrace package with a bow. And I'm going to stop talking about it for now because I'm definitely going to return to this game in another video. Okay, now for number 3 on the list, a game that needs almost no introduction. Resident Evil. Specifically, we're looking at Resident Evil Director's Cut on the PS1. Now, this is one that I think a lot of people do know about. It's like famously bad. Like, if you were going to know one bad video game music song, it could be this one. This is called Mansion Basement. Let's listen to it. It's hard to keep a straight face. Okay, so the track is only 1 minute and 4 seconds, and that was 25 seconds of it, which is about as much as I can stand. Okay, so I'm not fully qualified to tell this tale because it requires like a degree in journalism to express all the details, but basically Capcom wanted to release a version of Resident Evil to go with the brand new DualShock controller, which was a big deal at the time. To make this a spicy remix, they made a bunch of changes to the game, one of which was a brand new soundtrack by a man heralded as the Japanese Beethoven, Mamoru Samuragachi. The connection being he was apparently a deaf music composer, just like Beethoven. Years later, unrelated to the Resident Evil game, Samuragachi would be outed as a fraud, with his music being ghostwritten by someone else, and apparently he wasn't even deaf. But this revelation alone doesn't really explain why the song is so incredibly bad, as if someone was ghostwriting for him, wouldn't the point of ghostwriting be to produce something good? So theories developed and questions were asked, and there's a whole history to this thing, but one of the prevailing theories is that the MIDI version, MIDI being like the digital sequencing of a song, had the wrong instruments applied to it. Some people on YouTube have even tried to restore it to how it may have been supposed to sound, but honestly they're not that convincing to me. And there are other parts of the soundtrack that are pretty weak to me, but honestly, nowhere near this disaster. I don't know, the whole thing is complicated, okay? Alright, for entry number 4, I have a personal grievance of mine. This comes from Yoshi's New Island, not to be confused with any of the other similarly titled Yoshi games. So, listen, at some point in the internal Nintendo meetings, there was a guy who was just like, what if the Yoshis were bad at music? Would that be funny? Not really. I liked it when the Yoshis were good at music. Okay, let's listen. Okay. Is it gonna be a song now? That's not so bad. Psych, it's over. I don't know why this one bothers me so much particular, but it's like for the people that like Yoshi, which is like a lot of people because Yoshis are really cute. I don't know, it's not that funny. It seems almost like mean. Like the Yoshis, remember when the Yoshis sang? The Yoshis sing and it's super cute. Like why can't they just go back to that? Okay, so it's my personal opinion, this game has no reason to exist. I would call it a soft remake of the original Yoshi's Island, which was Super Mario World 2 back on the SNES, and in my opinion, the original plays way better and just feels snappier. You do typical Yoshi stuff, jump, flutter, eat enemies, throw eggs, just like a little bit worse than the predecessors. I do kind of like the graphical style of this new one, and you've got the 3DS 3D factor, which is kind of cool, but this game brings nothing else to the table besides the inclusion of giant eggs, which admittedly is awesome, but the game barely ever lets you use them in interesting ways. For a Nintendo game, this game got surprisingly thrashed in reviews, many of which bring up the soundtrack negatively, so this one isn't just my personal grudge. Honestly, when you inevitably compare it to the original Yoshi's Island, which is just about a perfect game, it's a rough situation to begin with. Okay, entry number 5. Are you ready? Sonic Chronicles and the Dark Brotherhood, I would say lesser known Sonic game for the DS. At some point they just got tired of making good Sonic games. You probably heard of that. And they started making Sonic RPGs for the DS. Now the DS is kind of the undisputed master of games that you played but no one else did. And I imagine this is like that for a lot of people. Let's give this a listen. This is called Central City. Are you ready? Okay, that was 20 seconds and I'm already suffering. I'm looking at this. There's 5 minutes left of this song, by the way. It doesn't really get better. Okay, so what is going on in a series that is mostly known for good music? What could have happened? Well, it was attempting to be a remix of this. This is Diamond Dust Zone from Sonic 3D Blast on the Genesis. Listen, this is... Now, this is an actual banger, although you can sort of hear some of that like disjointedness coming in. But for some reason here it completely works. Okay, so this oddball of a game is an RPG Sonic game developed by BioWare of all companies for the Nintendo DS. I can't get this game to emulate at all, so we're light on footage here, but you can kind of imagine it like a Sonic game in the style of the Mario and Luigi series, with turn-based battles and light rhythm mechanics. To be honest, I do kind of like the art style of the game, but overall the game was released to mediocre reviews. What we're concerned with is the soundtrack, and oh boy, are there rumors. Some people say that due to legal issues, the soundtrack had to be wiped out and redone from scratch in a huge time crunch, while others say the entire thing is built on fan remix MIDIs. Now, I have seen zero hard evidence for either of these theories, but the fact that there are theories at all on why the music is so bad says everything you need to know. Okay, now for the interactive portion of the video. So if you watched this far, first of all, thank you, but now I need your help. We're gonna have to figure something out between the two of us. So there's this game, Jet Set Radio. You may have heard of it, right? I would say it's relatively well known for being like culturally cool. You know, you skate around, do graffiti, and in general, I would say it has a pretty banger soundtrack. But there's always been one problem for me. There's this song, Birthday Cake. And if you know, your eyes just lit up and you're like, oh. So tell me, is this straight trash or is this actually a banger? We're gonna listen to it, okay? Ready?
Sweet. Yes, I'm cooking for my son and his wife. It's his 30th birthday. 4 days into my bowl and milk of 2 months ago. It's more than mom, isn't it?
Okay, so what do we think? Because on one hand, I think it actually is really catchy, but on the other hand, I think the voice is pretty grating, and the lyrics are bizarre. What did she mean by that? But here's the thing, despite it being kind of bad, I think it kind of works. So what do we think? What do we think? Write in the comments below. Is this a banger or straight trash? Don't worry though, this one didn't count. That one's for free. We're moving on to the next entry. That's just because I like you. That's your boy Slumber providing for you. Okay, now for our 6th entry. It's a series that I bet you didn't think was going to be on here. It's Pokemon, and specifically Pokemon of the Gold and Silver generation, which in my opinion is probably one of the better ones in terms of music. I mean, I love a lot of Pokemon music, but particularly from this generation, I think it's really strong, which is surprising that there's this track, Dragon's Den. Are you ready? Okay, that's about all I can say into that. So, because this is the Dragon's Den, we think maybe the point of this track was to induce stress, to convey to the player that they're in a dangerous situation, or I don't know, maybe to scare them. And it kind of opens up a broader question about video game music, where the intention of the music is not always to sound good. Sometimes music can be used to convey a feeling, or imply something, or cause stress, build tension. I mean, we see that in movies all the time. There's plenty of soundtracks for horror movies that you wouldn't just listen to. So, can video game music intentionally be bad? And I think the answer is yes. Some of my favorite games, like, for instance, Lisa the Joyful or Lisa the Painful, it has tracks that they're intentionally bad to sort of convey to the player more information about what's going on. So when we're talking about bad video game music, it does complicate things a bit to understand that it can just be intentionally bad. Like that could be the objective. In this case, I think this is just a bad track. But feel free to disagree with me in the comments, and I will feel free to delete those comments. Moving on. Listen, I'm not going to explain Pokemon to you. This series needs no context. In fact, I think Pokemon is the highest grossing IP to exist in media, so if you haven't encountered Pokemon, the machine has stopped, I guess. I will say that I think this gen has amazing music in general, and the National Park theme in particular might be in my top 10 video game tracks of all time. So I think this really is just an example of they can't all be bangers. Alright, entry number 7 belongs on the PSP. Do you remember the PSP? Dude, the PSP was amazing. And no, you don't remember Little Zoomer. That's stolen valor. The PSP is for us Zillennials. And it was amazing. You guys, you can't imagine, okay? But on the PSP, there was this game called Gurumin. This is another personal one of mine. This is a song. It was kind of hard to find this. It was called Bomber Girl from the Gurumin soundtrack. Are you ready? This game slaps, by the way. Great game. But this part kind of bangs. Ignore this part. My favorite part. I don't know what to think about this. Dude, the best part is like someone in the comments typed out the entire song in emojis. Dude, the YouTube comments never fail. Okay, so I found out this game was apparently originally a PC game in Japan before getting ported to the PSP, which is where I played it as a kid and assumed it was developed specifically for. It's a really neat little action RPG, and now you can even get it on Steam. Overall, I remember loving this game as a kid, and most of the OST was fine, I'm pretty sure, I don't remember. But what I do remember is this particular boss theme. Now, I didn't have time to make it to that boss when getting this footage, as I don't have time to play 10 games, but this particular track kind of gives me like Katamari and Animal Crossing vibes if it was bad. Oh my goodness, we're already at entry number 8. Now, entry number 8 is, this is also a famous one because it was an AVGN. And if it's good enough for James Rolfe, it's good enough for you. But this is from Terminator for the NES. The infamous sewer levels. I believe the song is just titled The Sewers. Are you ready? Okay, that's it. You have heard the entire song. Okay, I'll let it play. I'll let it play. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's the whole song. That's the whole song. The entire level. Oh, man. They were really cooking back then, were they not? I think they were. Okay, so I have never even come close to beating this game because this is from the era where games were insane CBT and gamers were just built different. But guess what? You don't have to beat a single level because the music we're interested in is in the very first level. Eventually, the music even adds 2 more notes. Wow! You press start and the game dumps you in the sewers playing as Cal Reese. Now, this tells me that video game presentation is just not at the level it is today. Nowadays, games typically try to wow you, or at least hook you in at the very beginning, but not so here. The game also controls incredibly awkwardly, where Kyle kind of throws it back before jumping, so he feels really sticky and sluggish, and he can't shoot while jumping. But honestly, I don't hate it. Getting footage for this, I ended up playing way more than I had to, so I guess I'm just nostalgic for those old games from the past that sucked ass. Okay, now for entry number 9 on the list, we've got another personal grievance. Actually, in retrospect, a lot of this list was just personal grievances from my childhood. Maybe when I make the next video, it won't be as personal. But this one, remember Zelda Wind Waker on the GameCube? It's one of my favorite Zeldas, and I think that it would probably be remembered for some of the greatest music in the series, right? So the theme of the game is sort of like Celtic inspired, so a lot of the music is Celtic, and I thought that was super cool. So this really cool nautical themed game with amazing music has direct sequels on the DS. There's a bit of a power gap between the GameCube and the DS, so obviously the games couldn't be the same. But that was a tough one to explain to my younger self, because I was not too happy with Zelda the Phantom Hourglass for the DS. Now what we're going to listen to is the dungeon theme for this game. Now when I say the dungeon theme, I mean the dungeon theme. Dude, I bet you thought this was going to be a palate cleanser. You're like, nothing could be as bad as Terminator. At least we've got Zelda now, right? But it's basically the same thing. An incredibly repetitive dungeon track. Now, here's the kicker. This game has a single dungeon track for every dungeon. So this is the only song you're going to be hearing in every dungeon in this game. And oh boy, does it wear thin. I don't necessarily think this is like the worst song in a vacuum, but when you consider that it is the only dungeon song in that game, I think it is straight. What can I say about this one? I don't think it's a terrible game, but I simply cannot overcome the disappointment of going from Wind Waker to this. This is the height of what I remember as the DS gimmick control era, so the entire thing is clumsily controlled with the touchscreen, which I honestly despised as a kid and is probably even worse now in emulation. But how else am I supposed to get footage of DS games? I can't even get Link to roll with my mouse, which you're supposed to do by scribbling a small circle motion on the side of the screen. So I pulled out the original on my DS to test, and honestly it didn't fare much better. I don't remember this era fondly, and I wasn't kidding about the dungeon theme. Less than 20 minutes into the game, I'm in the first dungeon, and I'm already hearing it for the first of many times. Okay, we finally reached number 10, and this one requires some context. Do you know who Mickey Rourke is? An actor slash boxer, I guess? So in one of, I would say, the most ill-advised sort of celebrity, what would you call it? Not a cameo, like a celebrity deal. There's this really weird game called Rogue Warrior. The end credits have one of the most bizarre things I've ever heard. It is, it's MC Mickey Rourke. We just gotta listen. We just gotta listen.
Fucking ninja style. I'm gonna bring it to him. I'm gonna show him what time it is. Good spot to bring the noise. Ah! You morons will love this. Hope you assholes like fireworks. Ooh! Fucking commies keep getting in my way. No surprise, motherfuckers.
Happy fucking birthday.
That's right, Nighty Night, you sweet piece of shit. Enjoy the ride, cocksucker. Have a nice trip. Boom time, baby. Trick or treat. Looks like a party. Come on. I got places.
Okay, so here's the thing. Whoever cut this together does actually have some flow. Like, they understand, but the concept of this is just too bizarre.
Anytime.
Okay, so this is a Bethesda published title, so I'm not sure these guys can pick winners, but this is an FPS set in North Korea with a backdrop of the Cold War. Now, this is widely regarded as one of the worst games ever made, but honestly, it's a comedy goldmine. Mickey Rourke plays the main character and is constantly spouting bizarre one-liners, which are then chopped up and mixed to make that song at the end. I didn't think this one was worth spending $5 on, so I'm using footage from Lacry on YouTube, and the entire game playthrough is just 90 minutes. But if you want, you can grab it on Steam. Honestly though, the more I listen to this one, the more I like it, so I might be putting this one in the cringe Kino category. Well, I'm your boy Slumber. I hope you enjoyed my just random, not a top 10, not a bottom 10, just 10 assorted bad video game songs. I think you enjoyed it if you got to this part. Thank you for watching. I'll make another one of these someday. This isn't just like a channel about bad video game music. I know this is like the only video on the channel right now, but there's other stuff coming. I wanted to leave you with a good taste in your mouth. What about something that I consider to be excellent? So I wanted to find a weird song that I think is amazing. This is from the RoboCop Game Boy game, which I think is a port of, was it the Genesis? I'm not sure. It's a port of some earlier console. And the title theme, which you may know if you're a Dilbert fan, I think this is one of the hardest tracks in all video games. So this is going to be the outro track. Let's listen to it. RoboCop title theme.